How was that?
Great.
So,
I'm not on the honorary list of BYU graduates, I'll tell you that. I'm glad to be here. My name's John Allred, and I am an alcoholic. I'll tell you, I'm going to set my clock here so I'll know what I'm doing. Doesn't work. There you go. I am glad to be here. It's been a wonderful. Is that better? All right, there you go. It's been a wonderful week. Everybody had a good weekend? I've had a ball. I got to see Mickey. Mickey's an old dear friend. We've known each other for a lot more years than we want to admit, probably. And Gay, didn't you make a great talk last night? Just a wonderful talk. And I'm looking forward to Jimmy tomorrow. You want to come tomorrow morning to hear Jimmy. He's a wonderful, wonderful AA. Makes a wonderful talk, and I'm just tickled to be here. And Dave's been great. Y'all been wonderful. Dave said I'm a walking example of AA. My sponsor says I'm actually an example of what not to do. You know? Chuck Chamberlain used to always say, every man's my teacher. Some people teach me what to do. Some people teach me what not to do. Most of what I'm going to share from the podium is what not to do, because I've done AA all wrong. Fortunately, by the grace of God and Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, in 2 months, on October 7th, 1981, I got sober. I'll have 35 years if I stay sober till October. And I'm extremely grateful for that. I've seen a lot of stuff in 35 years. I want to also mention that Kent made a great talk in the Al-Anon talk. We have a lot of Al-Anons here today? Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're here. You need to be here. I used to, I tell you, I was sitting in a meeting at Dallas North years ago, and it was my home group at the time, and I'm sitting there, and this gal is sharing, they were talking about gratitude. It was our topic, and she was so grateful that for Betty Ford. Now, those of you who are young, new alcoholics, you need to know who Betty Ford is. Betty Ford was married to Jerry Ford. Jerry Ford was a president of the United States. They don't teach history like that today. But he was a president of the United States. And Betty Ford was alcoholic. And after his presidency, she got sober, and she opened up a treatment center out in San Diego, and the Betty Ford Center. And this girl was so grateful for Betty Ford coming out and being alcoholic that maybe if the First Lady was alcoholic, other people could be alcoholic. And I'm listening to that, and it just cracked me up. Because it dawned on me, if it's true what they say, think about this, that the Al-Anon is as sick, if not sicker, than the alcoholic. No wonder our country got so screwed up, Think about it. We had an Al-Anon, an untreated Al-Anon running the country. And they had a typical alcoholic Al-Anon relationship, right? Betty did all the drinking, Jerry did all the falling down. I mean, it was typical. I was doing the steps over in Fort Worth that week, and after the meeting, I told that story. I thought it was funny. I shared that story. Guy comes up to me after the meeting and says, "Oh, John," he said, "you're in trouble." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, the Al-Anons, they're a little hot. They're out front waiting to talk to you." And I thought, well, I'll just go out the back door. And then I thought, wait a minute. Okay, they're alcoholic. I mean, they're Al-Anons, right? They're Al-Anons. I'm just going to go promise them I'll never do that again. I'll be okay, So. That's a great program. I'll tell you, they're tough. Al-Anons are tough cookies. You can't just be a weak link alcoholic. You're a tough Al. I was sitting there, Pats and I, we were going out there to New York. We wanted to, when Phantom of the Opera was big on Broadway, you had to get tickets a year ahead of time to go to it. Well, we went to the Phantom of the Opera, and we're sitting there, and we're all excited to be there, and it's a sold-out crowd. I mean, it's a year to get tickets, and it's filling up pretty soon, and a little lady comes and sits down in front of us. Empty seat. And I said, I can't believe there's an empty seat in this house with tickets. They could have scalped those things for money. And I said to the lady, I said, "Man, I can't believe there's an empty seat." She said, "Well, that's my husband's." I said, "Really?" I said, "Where is he? Is he getting a drink?" And she said, No, he's dead." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." "Yeah, we bought the tickets and then he died." I said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "Well, he was an alcoholic." I said, "Really?" She says, "Yes, bad alcoholic. He drunk all the time. He was just a terrible alcoholic. And God took him, and he's dead. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, couldn't you give the ticket to one of your relatives, a daughter or a son or a brother or sister or something like that? She says, oh, they're all attending the funeral. That's a tough program, man, I'll tell you that. But I got to tell you, in my 35 years I've been sober, I was thinking about what I was going to talk about. And I think I'll just share a little bit about what I've learned over those past 35 years. And I'm also been around long enough to know that I'm not going to tell you everything I learned over 35 years and do it in a short period of time, because I've learned so much. I mean, I was pretty stupid when I got here. I'm not much better now, but I have learned a few things. And probably the first thing I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous and when I got sober, was what an alcoholic is. You know, I grew up in a very non-alcoholic environment. I didn't know what an alcoholic was, you know. Nobody in my family drank. I am an adult child of non-alcoholics. And that's a bitch. I mean, I got nobody to blame. Nobody in my family drank. You know, my dad didn't drink, brother and sister didn't drink. I didn't drink growing up. I grew up in a very normal environment, very middle-income America type stuff. Nobody drank. And so I didn't know what an alcoholic was. I didn't start drinking until I was 25. My second child was born. Stuart called me up and congratulated me. He said, we're going out drinking tonight. I said, great. I went out and got drunk. Had a great drunk. My first drunk. 25 years sober. Never even drank before. And it was a great drunk. You know? Had a ball. This is in Salt Lake City, and you got to be a member of a private club to drink. So we went out to a private club called the Winery. I had my first drunk, and I don't know what I drank. A lot of people know what they drank the first time. I don't know what I drank. People buy me drinks. They're buying me drinks. I'm the star of the show right there. They're buying me drinks. And I don't know, I'm just drinking it. They buy me a drink, dark drink. Got a cherry in it. I just drink it down. Next drink, somebody buys another drink. It's light colored drink, got a twist around it. I drink it down. Whatever they buy, I'm drinking. It was a great drunk. You know, danced that night. Danced with two lesbians. Okay, they were out there dancing, you know, and I thought, they probably want me to join them. Then I went out, and then they left and went home alone. And I learned something. When you're drunk, there's no rejection. You're just drunk. No rejection, you're just drunk. Sat down, drank the next drink sitting in front of me. You know, that was my first drunk, and within a week, I was drinking every day. I never drank socially. I never got that cocktail or that glass of wine and walked around. In fact, I remember the day after that first drunk, I called up Stuart, and I said, Stuart, I had a ball. He said, yeah, you did. You had a good time. I said, you going to go have a drink tonight? He said, no. I hadn't thought about it. I may stop and have one. And I said, well, what time are you going to do that? He said, well, John, I got to work till 3 o'clock. I said, let's meet at 3:30. You know, man, at 3:30, got drunk again. So that's what I do. I drink to get drunk. I never drank socially. Never got that cocktail or that glass of wine and talked and visited and went home. Never did that. I just drink to get drunk. And people started telling me I'm out of control. They started telling me, very short period. You know, the mothers were just getting organized, and they were mad against drunk drivers. And they were getting organized. They were publishing a lot of newspaper articles about drunk drivers. And this was in the 70s. And I read this one article in the newspaper, and it said that only 1 in 2,000 drunks get picked up for DWI. 1 in 2,000. I read that, and I thought, that's pretty good odds. You know, I can get drunk every single night for like 5 years before I got to worry about a DWI, you know? I've been drinking 6 months, got my first DWI. What are the odds of that? And so people started telling me I'm an alcoholic. They say, slow down, it's not a contest, slow down. I said, well, what's an alcoholic? How do you know you're an alcoholic? What is an alcoholic? Don't get mad, John, it's a disease. Okay, let's go to the doctor. Well, we really can't do that. We got a disease we can't go to the doctor about. No, we really can't do that. Well, how do you know you're alcoholic? Can't we go do some blood analysis? Find out about this? No, we can't do that. Well, what's an alcoholic? How do you know you're alcoholic? Can't we go do a CAT scan or x-rays, MRI, something like that? No. Well, how do you know you're alcoholic? What is an alcoholic? So to give you that little test to take, 20 questions, I want you to know I can take that test and I can pass it non-alcoholic. I did it 3 times. Non-alcoholic. Because, see, I lie. In fact, I am so good at lying, I don't know I'm lying. A lot of people call that denial, but I'm just lying about it, In fact, the book never says we're in denial. That's a little thing for treatment centers, that you're in denial. The book never says we're in denial. The book says, denial is such a wimpy word. Denial. I'm in denial, which means you are unwilling to accept the truth. The book says we're delusional. Now, that's a word. Delusional. Think about it. You're delusional. That means you cannot distinguish reality from fiction. You're delusional. You're a sick puppy. You are one sicko when you're delusional. It's much stronger than denial. And so I'm sitting there and I said, well, how do you know you're alcoholic, for Pete's sakes? What is an alcoholic? And so they said, well, you drink too much. As soon as they told me I drank too much, because I'm looking for my definition, what's an alcoholic? I know I'm not alcoholic. Because I never drank too much in my life. In fact, I'll tell you a secret. There's not an alcoholic in this room tonight that ever drank too much. It's impossible to do that. You can't do that if you're alcoholic. You can't do it. See, I am an alcoholic, not because I drank too much. I'm an alcoholic because I couldn't drink enough. Could you ever drink enough? Sure, I can see somebody from this group. You go to the bar tonight, you have a couple of cocktails, the bartender says, you care for another cocktail? Oh, gosh. See, it's Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. Tomorrow's Sunday. Don't want to miss church. I really think I've had enough. Never had enough, I go to the bar at noon. You ever do that? You ever start drinking at noon? It's now midnight. Been drinking in the same bar for 12 hours. And I'm talking about it. Oh. God, Stuart. Oh. God, I'm drunk. He says, me too. Can I buy another drink? See, he hadn't had enough. Well, if you can't drink enough, it's impossible to drink too much. See, normal drinkers are Al-Anon friends. Normal drinkers can drink enough. And so occasionally, but not very often, they might drink too much. But if you're an alcoholic, it's impossible to drink. So when you tell me I drink too much, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because my problem isn't that I drink too much. The problem is I can't drink enough. And they don't understand why I can't just not have a drink. Because they can drink enough. I can't. I can't do it. I'm biologically, mentally impossible for me to satisfy that drink. And so I just don't make any sense. Now, what is interesting about that is the book comes out and the book says that someday they may have a pill. It says science may someday have a pill, as today we don't have a pill, that'll allow you to drink like the normal drinker, right? I want you to know, this tells you you're alcoholic. If they come up with that pill that'll allow you to drink like a normal drinker, I ain't taking it. Do you really want to drink like a normal drinker? Think about how exciting that would be. Oh, let's go have a drink. Sure, I want to do that. That's so bad. It makes no sense. I don't want to drink like a normal. Why would you take that pill? I'm not taking the pill because I don't want to drink like a normal drinker. If I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink. I sit there. I got a very dear friend. That he invited me over to his house. This was before I married that ever-loving Mrs. A. And I was single, and he said, come over to the house. I got this girl I want you to meet. He's not an alcoholic. So I go over to his house Sunday afternoon. We're going to have a pool party, barbecue around the pool. They're around the pool. Steve invites me over to meet this girl. So I go over to their house. I walk in, and they got a cooler. And they got one bottle of champagne in the cooler. And I said to Steve, what's this? He said, well, that's our champagne. I said, what are you going to do with it? He says, well, the girls want to have mimosas. That's their first clue. They got a sick party going on here. They're going to mix it with stuff or whatever, orange juice, I guess. But anyway, I said, how many bottles y'all got? He gets a funny look on his face, and he says, just one. Why? I said, hell, it's your party. I mean, So we barbecue, we lay around the pool, we're having a good time, we're getting ready to leave. It's now 6 o'clock. We've been there all afternoon. It's 6 o'clock, we're getting ready to go home. They're in the kitchen messing, and all of them gathered around this cooler fussing with this bottle. I said, what are y'all doing? Steve looks up and says, oh, John, hey, you're an alcoholic. You don't know how to do this. I said, what? He said, how do we recork this bottle? I said, hell, I don't have a clue how to recork that bottle. You ever have to recork a bottle in your life? Come on. You want to drink like that? Seriously, I said, hell, I'm embarrassed for you guys. 3 of you drinking all that and you can't knock off one measly bottle of champagne. I'd knocked out a 6-pack of Diet Coke by myself, Unbelievable that they would do that. You want to drink like that? I'm not taking that pill. You ever been around a normie? My wife, Patsy's a normie. I married one, Before we got married, we're driving around Sunday afternoon, Dallas, Texas, August, hot. She says to me, is it okay? I kind of feel like a beer. I said, okay, you want to stop and have a beer? She said, yeah, just get one to go. I said, you don't want to go in? No, I just want to get one to go. Drink on the way home. I just feel like a beer. It's hot. So I stopped. I went in, got a 6-pack, came out, and she said, what are you doing? I said, you said you wanted a beer. She said, I just wanted one. I said, I don't think they sell singles. I mean, do they sell singles? I don't know whether they sell singles or not. Why would you buy a single beer? That's all the money you had, Now, here's the kicker to that story. It's now Christmas. We're having a Christmas party at her house. We're having friends come over, and I'm in the kitchen trying to stay out of the way of being in trouble. And I open the refrigerator. There's 4 bottles of beer on the bottom shelf. I said, what is this? Oh, that's our beer. I said, where did you get it? She said, well, in August when we were driving around. She said, Daddy was over here watching football a couple weeks ago, and we had pizza, and he likes to drink beer with his pizza, so he had one. I hope that's okay. It ain't wine, baby. It's not getting better with age, They had that all. You want to drink like that? I ain't taking that pill. That's the first clue you're alcoholic. But I didn't know what an alcoholic was, And finally, last time I got arrested, it was in a blackout. And I want to tell you, this is the worst time. I'm a blacked out all the time. I'm a blackout drinker. People say, did you black out every time you drank? Well, how do you know? You don't know. And some blackouts are real scary, some aren't too bad, There are 2 factors that determine how scary a blackout is. The first factor is how long are you blacked out. The longer you're blacked out, the more scary they are. And the second factor is what are you doing when you come out of your blackout? Okay? That'll add to the scary factor a lot. And I wasn't blacked out that long, but when I came out of my blackout, I came out at the worst time to come out of a blackout. Without a doubt, the worst time coming out of a blackout is when you're talking to the cops. Because you have no idea where you are in the conversation. You really don't. You don't know what you've talked about. You don't know why they stopped you. You don't know what you've already told them. And you cannot ask any questions. You can't say, "What are we doing?" You can't say that. So you got to figure out what are we talking about. What have I given them? Oh my God! You got to figure all that out without asking any questions. Bad time to come out of a blackout. So I finally figured out they wanted my driver's license. Well, I didn't have a driver's license. They'd taken that 3 WIs earlier, and. So I said, it's over there. I'm going over there. I left it in my pants. My pants are over there. I'm going to go get it. It's in that apartment complex right over there. I'll bring it to you in the morning. They would not let me go. Locked me up, and this time they're mad. And I couldn't bond out because I knew the system. See, no matter what you get arrested for, what do? You plead not guilty, right? And then you go to the OR. It was just drunk stuff back in the 70s and 80s. You got out on your OR. And then you get you an attorney. You start that famous postponing process, right? They still do that. Postpone the trial. What you doing? Let's be honest. You're hoping the cop dies, okay? Just die or not. I get sick, can't show up for court, and we'll be okay. My cop never died. I always got to court. And so the day before court, when the attorney says, okay, tomorrow we go to court, no more postponing, tomorrow we go to court, you want to be sure on the day before court, move. Because that's what I just moved. Never went to court, I just moved. So I had all these failure to appears. So they wouldn't let me bond out. They said, no, you can't go. You don't come back. So you're going to go to court. So I'm in lockup. The only way I get out is if I committed to go to treatment with a friend of mine. A friend of mine came down and bonded me out, but I only do that if I promised him to go to treatment. So I'm going to treatment. And I'm in treatment. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't want to quit. I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to treatment so I can get out of jail. I figure treatment time is a lot better than jail time. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going to quit. I'm just getting out of jail. And I will do or say anything to get out of jail. So I'm in treatment. Don't want to be there. And filled out a whole bunch of papers. Went to my first AA meeting in treatment. And I'm sitting there. There was about 36 of us, all men. It was a men's drought joint. And I'm sitting there. I'm just being real quiet. I'm trying to figure out where I fit. So I'm a real chameleon. I go someplace, I'm going to be real quiet. I'm going to sit back and kick back, and I'm going to figure out who's who in this group. Who's the tough guy? Who's the leader? Who's got the money? Who's got the real power? How am I going to fit in this group? I'm going to figure out my spot in the group, and then I'm going to blend. That's what I do. So I'm sitting back, observing who's who in this group. Two guys from AA come out, chair the meeting. Don't listen to a thing they said because I'm watching everybody else, trying to figure out who they are. And they got through talking. They started down the road. It was a discussion meeting. First guy introduced himself, said, my name's Joe B. I'm an alcoholic. I'll pass. Second guy said, my name's Jim S. I'm an alcoholic. I'll pass. I caught on real quick. What they do in AA, they give their first name, last initial, admit they're alcoholic, and then pass. There must be something magical about doing that. If you admit you're an alcoholic to this group, it's just like magic. It's going to take that burden of alcoholism off your shoulders, sit over there. That must be the deal. They had it written on the wall, admitted you're powerless over alcohol. So it got to me. I did it right. I said, my name is John A. I'm an alcoholic. I'll pass. Nothing happened. Not a damn thing. I thought, well, obviously, I'm not alcoholic. And if I have a little bit of alcoholism in me, Alcoholics Anonymous must be for really simple-minded people. You know, if that's the best they got. Now, that was my distorted view of Alcoholics Anonymous. It ain't for me. And on Monday, got me and my counselor, Dell, lovely lady. Got to spend an hour consultation with Dell. She wanted me to stay 2 months. 2 months. I said, Dell. I have been here all weekend, okay? I've been talking to these guys. They're alcoholics. I believe they are. They look like they probably are alcoholics, okay? I don't know whether I'm an alcoholic. I may have a little bit of alcoholism in me, but not much. You know? And I'm too busy. She said, you're busy? I said, yes, I'm busy. She looks through her papers. She said, now, where were you working? I said, well, I'm not working, but I'm busy. You know? Isn't that true about alcoholics? Alcoholics are the most busy, unemployed people you ever want to meet in your life. Really, really are. Go to the meeting. Go to the meeting Monday. It's a work day Monday, right? Go to the meeting Monday. Now, the guy's unemployed. He's got nothing to do all day long but get to the meeting, and he's late. You say, where have you been? Oh, hell, I've been busy. You know? I don't know what we do, but we're busy doing it. And so I said, I'll give you 2 weeks. You know, so give me whatever material you're going to study during that 2 months. I'll read ahead. You can give me some pop quizzes. Because 2 weeks, I got to go back to Reno. I'm living in Reno. I'm treatment in Salt Lake. See, because I'm not quitting drinking. I'm just doing treatment time. That's all I'm doing. I don't tell anybody that, but that's what I'm doing. Because I don't even know what alcoholism is. So I'm sitting there. She listens to all that BS. Finally, says, "We better hurry with you." That's right. So I'm sitting there. The next day we had group therapy. Anybody been to group? I love group. Love group therapy. Never seen much good come from it, but it's fun to do, isn't it? It's fun to do. Cross meetings permitted in group. You know, it's not like AA meetings where you talk. You've shared. No more. You shared. You know, but in group, cross-talking is permitted. And I caught on to the lingo real quick, you know. Some guys say, oh, come on, man, get honest. You're in denial, man. You're in denial, you know. I love that kind of stuff. Never seen much good come from it, but group's fun to do. That was on Tuesday. Wednesday's Alcoholic Education Seminar. They're showing a meeting about drug addiction and alcohol. They're showing I'll Quit Tomorrow. I'm not impressed with movies about drug addiction and alcoholism. They're boring. Even today, I don't watch them. They're just kind of boring. But I'm watching that movie, sitting there, all my pride, all my ego, all my contempt, prepared not to like that movie. And the movie tore me apart. You know? I related to everything in that movie. I did everything that guy did. I talked the way the guy talked. I dressed the way the guy dressed. I acted the way the guy acted. I drank the way the guy drank. I related to everything in that movie. It's like they made a movie of my life and they were showing it to the group. And I knew the gig was up. That was my moment of clarity when I knew the gig was up, as I related to that movie. And I stayed there 6 weeks. Couldn't stay 2 months. Too busy to stay 6 weeks, But that was my moment of clarity. Think how important that is. That was my moment of clarity. When I knew the gig was up. That's the most precious moment we have in our lives, is that moment of clarity. And I stayed there 6 weeks, and I wasn't happy about it. Sometimes people will say how relieved they were to know that what their problem was, how excited they were to be in AA, and how at home they felt. That was not my experience. I was scared to death and cried all night. I mean, my whole life just changed. My God, I'm an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. What am I going to do now? It was incredible, and I cried. I stayed there 6 weeks. That was my first recollection of what alcoholism is. And I was an alcoholic, and I knew the gig was up. And I left there. When I left there, they said, you need treatment, you need outpatient care, but you're living, very important part of recovery is outpatient. You got to come back for visits. And you're living in Reno, that's 800 miles. You can't come back here 3 times a week. So you're going to have to go to AA for your outpatient therapy. So I got back there. They gave me Intergroup's phone number. And drove back to Reno. And I had 2 things when I got back there. I know I'm an alcoholic. I don't want to drink. I know that. I know what an alcoholic is, and I'm one. Okay? That's one thing I learned in AA. I'm an alcoholic. The second thing I learned was AA's got nothing to offer. I mean, you go there, you give your first name, last initial, admit you're alcoholic, and then pass. Wow. Be still my beating heart. That's what we're going to do here. How long I got to do this? But I don't want to drink. So the first day I'm back in town, I call AA. Guy answers the phone. I said, my name's John A., and I'm an alcoholic. He says, well, I'm Bruce, I'm an alcoholic. What can I do for you, John? I said, well, listen, I just got out of treatment over here in Salt Lake. I'm living here in Reno, Nevada, and, I wanted to call and report in. I thought they had me on computer, If you don't show up, they put out a failure to appear on you, and you're kind of screwed on that thing, So I wanted to make sure I don't go back to jail. So he said, oh, I'm glad you're here. You want to go to a meeting tonight? I said, well, yeah, you'll probably want to meet me. He said, I'm not going to go, but there's a meeting at the men's stag, Holt Riverside Casino. It starts at 8:30, 3rd floor in the Sierra Room. I know where that is. I'll be there at 8. I'll be there early so we can meet. So I'm not going to go. I said, well, call them and tell them John A. is coming to their meeting. Said, they'll be there. Don't worry about it. So I show up 8:15. First resentment, Alcoholics Anonymous. I called, made a reservation. Guy did not call them and tell them John A. is coming to their meeting. There wasn't anybody there to meet me. He said, oh, John A., here's your chair. We've been waiting for you. Here's your coffee. Just some guys smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, waiting for the meeting. We used to smoke in AA. It was fun. We smoked a lot. And nobody there to greet John A. I sat down, got my coffee. Pretty soon, a guy named Red chaired the meeting. Red looked like an alcoholic. Red talked for a while, didn't listen to a thing Red said, because I'm watching these guys in Reno, trying to figure out who they are in Reno. Who's got the power? Who's got the money? Who's the tough guy? Who do I need to avoid? Who's crazy? Got to figure all that out. Tough job for me, but I can handle it. And I'm going to figure all that out. And Red quit talking. They started down the road. These guys didn't pass. These guys shared. They were talking. Don't know what they talked about. Nothing we talked about in treatment. It was really bizarre stuff they were talking about. Nothing we talked about in treatment. And in fact, these guys were so bad, they could not even introduce themselves right. Some of them did not give their last initial. Said, my name's John, I'm alcoholic. You're supposed to give your last initial. Guy didn't give his last initial. You're supposed to do that, Guy is so bad, he can't even give his last initial. Some of them gave their last name. They said, my name's John Allred, I'm alcoholic. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What does he think Anonymous stands for? Oh, my gosh. I know his first and last name now. I can look him up in the phone book, It became clear to me, just from that short little time I'm listening to these guys have not been to treatment. So I thought, okay, I can help them, So it got to me, I did it right. I said, my name is John A., and I'm an alcoholic. And I qualified. That's what we used to call it. Used to qualifying. I qualified. I said, listen, guys, I just got out of treatment over in Salt Lake City. And I want you to know I have the latest, most up-to-date medical and psychological information on the disease of alcohol. Second resentment, Red cut me off. Said, thank you, John. We're on the next guy. I thought, son of a bitch is jealous. I know stuff he doesn't know. That's his problem, After me, some guy came up, shook my hand, and said, hope you come back. I'll be back. They need me down there now. They need me. They don't even know what they're doing. They can't even give their last initial. How are they staying together without me down there, Now, as I said, Chuck Chamberlain used to always say, man's my teacher. Some teach what to do and what not to do. Most of what I'm going to share from here on out is what not to do because I've done it wrong. I went to one meeting a week. Every Thursday, I'm down at my men's stag meeting. I don't know where I was when they said 90 meetings in 90 days. Not what I did. Go to one meeting a week. Every Thursday, I'm down there. Now, they will not let me share. But I keep going back. I figure, I'm a hell of a lot younger than Red. He's going to die, then I get to share. I'm just going to outlive the guy. That's what I'll do. I'll just outlive the guy. Now, let me tell you what happens when we go to one meeting a week. One of the things they told me in treatment, they said, John, don't drink. If you don't drink, you'll feel better. And that's true. But they didn't tell me what that meant. If you don't drink, you will feel better. You're going to feel everything better. You're going to feel all the pain, all the anger, all the resentment. You're going to feel that crap a whole lot better, So I'm walking around really going to one meeting a week, feeling better, going nuts, So I'm down there Thursday night. It was Christmas Eve. I'm down there Christmas Eve, Thursday night. Not sharing. And they announced, they said, now tomorrow's Christmas Day. You got nowhere to go for Christmas dinner? You can go to the Dryers Club. Skid Row Clubhouse on Wells Street is still there. Al-Anon's fixed a free Christmas dinner. It's going to be great. I had nowhere to go Christmas. So I went to the Dryers Club on Christmas. I ate. It was good. Got my cup of coffee. I'm not bothering her. So I'm just sitting there, not bothering anybody. Old timer spotted me. You know how they spot you? Their eyes actually glaze over. Newcomer, I swear to God, they start to salivate. They just really start to salivate. And I saw him. He got up and he started walking. I thought, oh, look at this guy. This is not my kind of guy. I like cool guys. This guy is not cool. He's a fat old man, big nose, real weird hair. Nothing cool about him at all. I don't know. He's going to come over and talk to me. What am I going to do with this guy? He introduces him. His name is Don. He tells me he's the coordinator of intergroup. I don't know what that is, but I thought, I'm glad they found something for you to do. So I'm talking to Don, and after just a few minutes, it became clear Don had not been to treatment. So I started to tell Don about all the stuff that they're not letting me share at my home group. He gets a funny look on his face, and he says, John, do you want to go to a meeting with me tonight? And I said, well, yeah, I'll go to a meeting with you tonight. I said, the problem is, Don, I really can't go tonight. This is what I really said. The problem is I can't go tonight. So I go Thursdays. It's Friday. He says, we got a meeting every night in Reno. And I thought, okay, I'd heard something. In that short time I've been going today, I'd heard this is a spiritual program, spiritual deal. So I thought, yeah, I can go to a meeting tonight. It's Christmas, won't hurt. I can go twice this week. It'll be all right. So I go to this meeting out at the state hospital. They got a meeting out there at the mental hospital on Friday night, 7 o'clock. So I go out there, and he picks me up. We go to the meeting. First meeting I've been walking to women in the meeting. I didn't know that I'm in. First time I've been to a meeting with women in that meeting. It was great, man. Immediately adopted that as my home group. I thought, man, why am I going Thursdays to men's staff? Well, I can come here Friday. This is my new group, baby. I'm coming, screw Thursday. I'm here Friday. That's it. That's all there is to it. Got me sold. And they give you a raffle ticket. When we walk in, they give you a raffle ticket, and they raffle off a big book, or as Bill sees it. So I get my raffle ticket, and they had a meeting on what they talked about, because although I have a great mind to read real fast, I had forgot to get a big book. So this is it, man. I'm winning the book. I don't have a big book. I'm the only guy here without a big book. I'm winning that book tonight. I'm praying to God. I want that book. It's Christmas Day. This is going to be God's gift to me on Christmas. It's going to be the big book of AA. I'm the only guy here without. I want a book. I want the book. The book's my book. Give me the book. Prayed hard for that book. Then the meeting, they had the raffle off the big book. Third resentment in AA. Some little great lady, 25 years sober, wins my book. I thought, what's she winning my book for? She got 5 at home collecting dust. Can't see read anymore. She's so old. So I'm struck. Before I can get out of that, little lady comes up and gives me that book. She gave me that book. That's where I got my big book. And I used to say I took the book home and I read that from cover to cover. So if you ever heard me say that, or if you ever get hold of an old tape where I said that on the tape or the CD, please believe me that when I said that, I believed it. Then I got involved in a big book. So you would read the chapters in that book. They got a chapter in the book, chapter to the wives. Well, I wasn't a wife, didn't have a wife, didn't want a wife. Didn't read that chapter, They got a chapter to the employer. I'm not an employee. Didn't read that chapter, They got a chapter in the book, We Agnostics. I'm not agnostic. I know God real well. Didn't read that chapter. Well, I want to tell you, if you just read chapter 3 and chapter 5, you can read that tonight. It won't take that long to do it. It really won't. But the next day, Don calls me up, takes me to a meeting. Every day this guy's calling me on the phone and taking me to a meeting. I don't really want to go. But he doesn't ask. He just says, calls and says, I'll pick up in 20 minutes. Clicks, hangs up the phone. I'm so grateful we didn't have caller ID back then. Because you had to answer the damn phone. You know, the phone rings and sometimes you don't want to answer it, but you pick it up. We had no caller ID, so I had to answer the phone. He says, pick up in 20 minutes, hangs up the phone. Now, I don't want to go. What am I going to do? I'm just going to leave. I won't be here when he gets here. Now, wait a minute. If you don't show up, he's going to talk about you behind your back. You got to go. You got to go. So I go to a meeting. Fascinating thing happened. I didn't have a sponsor, hadn't worked any steps. The only change in my life was a meeting every single day. That's the only change. Meeting every day. And a fascinating thing, I not only feel better, but I feel good. And I hadn't felt those two things at the same time in years. And it's just a meeting a day. And all of a sudden, sobriety started to put on flesh and bones. Before then, it wasn't flesh and bones. Y'all made it flesh and bones to me. So I started hanging out. I started going down to that intergroup that he was a coordinator of, hanging out with him during the day, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, joking, go to a meeting with him at night. I started to get excited about it. And all I'm doing is going to a meeting every day. And I felt like a little kid. He'd come pick me up. I'm sitting in the front seat of his car. He's driving the car. I'd say, Don, do you think we can go get ice cream tonight? We'll see. Yeah. But it's exciting. So I'm down there a week later. It's only been a week, and I'm excited about AA. I'm going to AA every single day. I'm in an intergroup. It's New Year's Eve, a week later, New Year's Eve. Phone rings. I'm getting ready to go to my men's stag meeting, New Year's Eve. Phone rings. I grab the phone. It's a young kid named Glenn. Glenn's 17 years old, wants to know how to stay sober New Year's Eve. I said, why? I mean, Glenn, you're 17. It's New Year's Eve. Okay, we're here tomorrow. You can call tomorrow morning. We're here early. We're here bright and early tomorrow morning. You know, we'll be here. Not a big deal. Fourth resentment. Don grabs that phone away from me. That's when he passed the rule at central office. You have to have 6 months or more to answer the phone at intergroup now. I'm responsible for that new rule at intergroup. They put a big sign up. Must have 6 months to answer this phone. Big red arrow pointing down at the phone. But Don talked to him. I don't know what he said. Gave me his phone number. Not giving my phone number. The next day, Don calls me and says, hey, Glenn stayed sober last night. Wants to go to a meeting. I thought, great, my first 12-step work. So Don gets me. We go get Glenn, or taking Glenn out to state hospital. We have the hospital, and I'm my first 12-step call, and I'm waiting for Don to prepare Glenn for AA. But he's not. He's just driving the car. He's not preparing Glenn for AA. I thought, hell, I got to do it all. So I said, Glenn, you're going to love this. We're going to go there to get a women your first meeting. I didn't know they were there for 2 months, but you get women right out of the chute, man. And I've been to several AA groups here in Reno. This group we're going to tonight, believe me, they got the best looking AA women in AA. Next Friday, without Don, me and you, we come back here. That's what we're going to do. We come back here. And I said, when you get there, they're going to give you a raffle ticket. Hang on to the raffle ticket, because then they mean they can raffle off a big book, or as Bill sees it. I suggest the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because if you win, you'll win the book. And so Don just drove to the meeting. We get in there, get a raffle ticket, sit down. I don't know what they're talking about because I'm praying for Glenn. I thought, you know what? Come on, God, let Glenn win that book. If Glenn can win that book, after I've prepared him for AA the way I have, that'll be proof that God is working in his life. And he'll stay sober forever, you know. And not that it really matters, but I would have 100% 12-step call success rate. I could write articles in the Grapevine. I had a 100% 12-step call success rate. But anyway, so they had a meeting. I talked about it and praying for Glenn. I let Glenn win the book. Then the meeting went to raffle off the big book. I won the book. Don turned to me and said, see how that works? I said, yeah. I signed it, gave it to Glenn. That's where Glenn got his book. Okay, and Glenn's sober today because I gave him that book. That's why he's sober. Now, that little experience early in sobriety taught me something. Taught me how God works. See, God works through people. Whenever God works, it's a win-win deal. There are always two winners when God works. God works through people. See, whenever he works through people, he gets twice the result for the same effort. Very efficient God, you know. See, I could have won the big book the first night. There had been one winner, me. But that little lady won by being able to share with me, and I won by being able to receive from her. God works. A week later, two winners. I won by sharing with Glenn. Glenn won by being received from me. God works through people. It also taught me how AA works. Because Alcoholics Anonymous is one drunk sharing with another. When that happens, that's the magic to our program. That's the magic to our deal. When one alcoholic shares with another. See, I've told that story 1,000 times since I've been sober in 35 years. At least. And whenever I tell that story, I remember that moment when I knew the gig was up. Remember like it happened yesterday. And as I've told that story, what have you thought about it? You know, and when I'm on that side of the podium, when you all is up here and you remember your story, you're telling your story of what it was like and what happened, and you're keeping your moment alive, because that's what happens when we tell our story. When we tell our story, we're keeping that moment of clarity alive. And that's why this program, the root of our problem is selfish self-centeredness. Because when you're up here and you're remembering your moment, you're sharing your moment. I'm so self-centered, what am I thinking about? My moment, screw your deal, you know. We remember our own moment when somebody tells you about their moment. See, I got to hear your moment so that my moment stays alive. And you got to hear mine. You can't. What happens in Alcoholics Anonymous is really pretty simple. What we do in here is we keep that moment alive. As you share what it was like and what happened, you keep it alive. You can't keep your moment alive by sharing with your doctor, your therapist. They don't need to hear it. I got to hear about your moment so that my moment stays alive. You can't keep your moment alive by sharing with your doctor. Your doctor doesn't need to hear it. I got to hear about it because I may lose mine. What happens when you lose your moment? You take drunk. And it's that moment of clarity that is God's gift to the alcoholic. And that normally happens to us before we come to AA. And the proof of that statement is that moment is your last drunk. I'm willing to bet a whole lot of money. When you had your last drink and you sat it down, you had no idea that was your last drink. I didn't. Hell, if I did, I'd have done it different, you know? What happened? Why was that your last drink? I didn't know that was going to be my last drink. I'd sworn off 100 times, but I never did. But for some reason, my last drink that I didn't even know was my last drink was my last drink. What happened? It's divine intervention, you know? I'm so grateful that God doesn't require me to do anything except open my heart and my mind to His will. If there had been any requirements for AA or to stay sober, I would have failed. I'd have died drunk. But with God, He's the one that chooses. And what I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous, in working these steps, I found out why we work the steps. That's the second thing I found out. I used to think we worked the steps to stay sober. You know, that's not why we work the steps. If that was why we work the steps, then we'd all have to do them the same way, and we don't. We work the steps to have that spiritual experience. We work the steps to find God. Because it says in step 12, having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps. We don't work the steps. What I found out in 35 years is that we have to live the steps. What happens when I work the steps? It's futile. It doesn't seem to really work. Living, and I'll tell you how I learned that. I'm living in Reno, Nevada. I'm 11 months sober. I took the third step on my knees with my sponsor. I turned my will and my life over to the care of God. When I did that, there were a couple things that I knew that God didn't care about. Never asked me, does God care about this stuff? I just figured it out by myself. And they weren't big things. They were just little things. I knew that God doesn't care about money. So if God, and my mind figured that out because I thought, you know what? God loves the rich and the poor, right? So He didn't matter how much money you got. He loves you. So if He doesn't care about money, I will manage my money. And then the second thing was God doesn't care about where I work. He didn't care about employment. And I figured that out and never asked me, does God care where you work? I just figured it out because I figured God doesn't. He loves the bank president. He loves the ditch digger. As long as you have honest work, He doesn't care where you work. And the last thing was relationships. God doesn't care who you date. I just figured that out because I thought, you know what? I bet you God is not interested in the same kind of date I'm interested in. So I just threw that into the mix. So when I took that third step, I took it on my knees with my sponsor. I'm working the steps. Took the third step on my knees with my sponsor, turned my will and my life over to the care of God, except for these three little areas, money, employment, and women. And those are the three things I'm going to be in charge of. And but everything else I turned over to God. Now the real sad thing about what I just did is that whenever I had to call my sponsor after midnight, or whenever anybody's called me that I sponsor after midnight, the source of that pain has always come from one of three areas. It is always money, employment, or women. And those are the three things I'm left in charge of. And I tell you what's fascinating about that is my sponsor later come. If you haven't figured out by now, if you're sober and you're doing the steps, you're in AA, you're active, you're only going to have two problems the rest of your life. And you're either going to have a money problem or a relationship problem. If you haven't figured out by now, money and employment are real closely related. Okay? So if you're working, you're okay. If you're not working, get a job. But money and employment. And so I would call my sponsor with a problem, and it would take me an hour to get around to what the problem was. And so I'd finally get around to what the problem was. And so he'd say, we're going to save an hour of BS with you. So when you call, I'm going to say, what color is it? And you tell me what color. So we're going to color code the problems. And it's either going to be a pink or green problem with you. One of the two problems, pink or green. So I'll say, what color is it? You say pink, I'll know it's a girl problem. If you say green, I know it's a money problem. It'll be that simple. And so I'm sitting there, I'm living in Reno, Nevada. I've taken the third step on my knees with my sponsor. Said the third step prayer, meant it when I said it. Turn my will and life over to the care of God. I'm managing my employment by not working. I'm not working. I'm playing poker for a living. I'm managing my money so I can play poker. And I've been sober 2 months, and I fell in love. This was the real deal, guys. She was a beautiful gal. This was the real deal. I loved her with all my heart. Beautiful gal. Picked her up in a bar. Well, the book says, check your motives. And if you have reason to go there, you can go there. You'll be okay. And I had reason to go and succeeded in that. And she was not an alcoholic to my knowledge. She was not alcoholic. She was a hypochondriac. They're a lot like alcoholics, but instead of going to the bar tonight, they like to go to the hospital. It was the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm serious. We'd go to the hospital all the time. We're down there. We went to the hospital every night 1 week. I don't know what their fetish is about hospitals, that they like to go to the hospital. And we're down there, and the nurse finally comes out, big, thick file, and she says, Valerie is very, very sick. I said, well, thank God. I've been down here every night all week. We never found nothing wrong with her. And she said, well, she went through her file with me. Val she had 17 operations. 17 operations. She's 30 years old. She's had 17 operations. You know what my mind said to me? This is great. This is wonderful. I mean, think about that. I'm an alcoholic. I have a real disease. She just thinks she's sick. We'll get real active in Alcoholics Anonymous. She'll get real active in Hypochondriacs Anonymous. And we'll just get well together. That's what we do, right? We get all these sickos together, and we love each other and support each other, and we get well together. This will be great. It'll be a wonderful experience for both of us. Oh, terrible time. Sick relationship. Painful. Hurt. Constant pain. Hurt. I kept talking to my sponsor about it. He said, leave her. I said, I can't leave her. I love her, Don. You don't even know what love is anymore. You're so old. You don't even know what love is. I love her. I'm not leaving her. I love her. That's all there is to it. And it is, you got a car? I said, yes, I got a car. Back your car up, throw your shit in, and go. I said, I can't. I'm not leaving her, Don. I'm not leaving her. You ever notice how you can't leave a sick deal? The sicker the deal, the worse it is to leave. You just can't leave a sick deal. Love her. I love her, man. I can't leave that deal. Just cannot leave her. Mm-mm. We moved in on the third date. I used to ask Bob, how can we do that? How can alcoholics fall in love so quick? And he explained to me, makes sense to me. He said, we're like that dog, lives of a dog. I said, what do you mean lives? You call me a dog? I said, no. Like, 1 human year is like 7 years to a dog. He said, well, 1 date to a normal person is like 7 dates to an alcoholic. And if you're dating an alcoholic, you really have a compounding effect. And so after 3 dates, you've been dating a year. After 3 dates, And so we moved in on the third date, and it was just painful. And I didn't really even mind her 5 kids. I really didn't even mind that fact. I loved her, and it was a wonder. But she only had custody of 2 of them, the 2 girls that took the men children away from her because she hated boys. But I loved her. It was wonderful. So I'm sitting there in Reno, Nevada. I've taken the third step. I'm not working. I'm still playing poker. I manage my money so I can play poker, and I'm involved in this sick relationship. He kept trying to say to me, listen, John, 2 dinglings don't make a bell, And finally he said, I'm not going to talk to you about that anymore. You shouldn't be in that. It's a sick deal. You should be out of it. So I'm not going to talk to you about it anymore. Can't talk about it. Talk about anything else, but not that. So I'm sitting there. I'm in Reno, Nevada. I'm 11 months sober, and she kicked me out. She wasn't as sick as I thought she was she, Mickey? What happened was, I lost all my money. I got in a game, lost all my money. I lost all my money. So here you go. See, the green really affects the pink. And so she kicked me out. Had nowhere to stay. And I stepped in my car that night. And I got up in the morning, went down to central office. And I'm telling Don, I said, man, I lost all my money. Val's kicked me out. I've hit bottom here. I'm just in bad shape. I lost all my money. And I had to sleep in my car last night. He smoked his cigarettes. Oh, thank God. I said, Don, this isn't a little cash flow crunch we're talking about here. This is it's not like I got to wait till payday and then I get a paycheck, I'll be okay. I got no paycheck coming because I'm not working. This is a major problem, And he said, I know, thank God. He said, see, John, we've been walking around here like a hot shot now for 11 months. You got a great meeting schedule, but now you get to find your source that's going to take care of you the rest of your life. And I call that source God. And I said, so what do I do? He said, well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to practice the seventh tradition in your own life. I've only been here 11 months. I said, seventh tradition, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're going to be self-supporting through your own contributions, declining outside help. I said, what exactly does that mean? He said, you don't borrow any money. He said, I don't want you to borrow. I don't want to hear about you borrowing $20 from another AA. You borrow $20 from another AA, get a new sponsor, because that's not your source. I don't want you borrowing any money from your mom. In fact, I don't want you calling your mom. You call your mom, you'll cry, she'll send you some money. That may kill you. So if you need to talk to your mom, you tell me, I'll call her for you. Well, you're going to go to your sponsor, will you call my mommy? No, you're not going to do that, And he said, so you're going to get a job. And the next thing is, although you're a bum, it is not God's will that you look like a bum. That is not God's will. So you're going to look and act like what you are, which is one of God's kids. So I had to shave every day. I stepped in my car, and then I'd go down to the Shell station. I'd shave at the Shell station. I had to shave every day. Had to put on a little tie. I had two outfits that rotated. I'd take a little sponge bath at the Shell station, and then I'd put on a clean shirt I washed out the day before and put in the back seat to dry out, and put my little tie on. I was supposed to go out and look for work. And this was in 82, and in 82 the economy was like the one we were just coming out of. Very tough. They had two casinos go bankrupt. The Mapes and Money Tree put 750 people out of work in Reno, and that was a small town. I couldn't find a job. And I used to walk around the casinos, up and down rows and rows of slot machines, looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. They actually used real money in the machines back then. They would pay off in real money, and people would scoop up their money and run off. They'd accidentally leave a quarter, a dollar, a dime, or a nickel in the slot machine. You could find money in the slot machine trays. And I'd walk up and down looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. You can make about $2 doing that. It'll take you 18 hours, but you can actually find money. I used to sweep out a bar. Lady owned a 751 bar in South Virginia. Every Friday, she'd let me come down and sweep out her bar. And she'd pay me $5 and feed me lunch. My sponsor gave me some great advice. He explained to me that we can't help somebody do something we haven't done. You can't help somebody do something you haven't done. So he said, I don't want you going down to the lunch bunch group with all those guys down there at the club. They're not working. And ask them how to get a job. Because they don't know. If they did, they'd go get one. So he said, you can only talk to me. We don't manage by group. We manage by sponsors, and there's only one sponsor. And he said, so you talk to me, or you can't talk to my sponsor, which was Bob H., or his sponsor, which is Pete T. They're all dead now. And Pete Tyrene, and Bob Harrigan, and Don Mendiola. But he said, those are only three people you can talk to. So I'd scoop out that bar. I got down to 135 pounds. 135 pounds. I'm 170. I was 135 pounds because I wasn't eating. I couldn't borrow any money. My sponsor bought me one hamburger one time because I think he thought I was going to die. I'd walk up and down. Because the big decision was when I'd find my money, the $2, the big decision was, am I going to buy cigarettes or am I going to eat? And that's how sick you get, And so sometimes I'd eat and bum cigarettes. Sometimes I'd buy cigarettes and bum food, But I used to bounce in and out of wanting to commit suicide and being afraid I was going to die. Because I'm coming up on a year sober, and I see other people, they come into AA, and it ain't working for me. Other guys come into AA, and they get their wives back. They get jobs. They're working. Their life's progressing. I'm living in my car. I got no job. I got no money. I got no place to live. I'm sleeping in my car, and it ain't working. And I can't talk to only those three people about it. My sponsor finally said, what you do, you can talk to somebody that's lived under the bridge. Because I haven't lived under the bridge. I don't know how to live there. So in your men's stag meeting, bring up the subject and say, after the meeting, I want to talk to somebody that's lived under the bridge and see how to do that. So I brought in my men's stag meeting. I asked that question after the meeting. I want to talk to somebody that lived under the bridge. Good question to ask in AA. Had about 3 guys come up, and they said, no problem, man. You're okay. You go down here to the blood plasma center, sell your blood. Back then, we sold it for $7. You can sell your blood, get $7, then you can go to the Social Security office, get food stamps. They'll give you some emergency food stamps that day. You can sell those on the street, or you buy food with them if you want it. You can sell them on the street. Hey, you can have $20 by tomorrow night. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. You know, I parked around the corner from the blood plasma center, going to sell my blood. I went in to sell my blood at the blood plasma center. They wouldn't take my blood. You got to have a picture ID. And I had an ID, and it was I had a driver's license, but it didn't have a picture on it. It was a special driver's license. That's what it said right on it, special driver's license. They only give it to special people, you know. Allows you to drive during special hours. And so I had this special driver's license, and they wouldn't give me any I couldn't sell my blood. But I'm not discouraged. I go to the Social Security office, get my food stamps, and they wouldn't give me any food stamps. You got to have your Social Security card. I didn't have my card. I lost my wallet years prior to that and didn't have it. But I knew my number. What do you need the card for if you know the number? And they said, no, we need the card. I want to tell you, you just can't go move out and live under the bridge. You got to be prepared to live under the bridge. You know, you do. I got all that stuff now, man. I can go live under the bridge tonight, you know. So I said, how do I get a card? They said, fill this form out, we'll mail it to you. Sure you will, you know. I just couldn't figure out why it wasn't working, you know. And now it's cold, it's snowing in Reno. The snow's coming down, and it's cold, and my nose is running. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in my car. And I really didn't mind dying in my car. My fear was that nobody would know I died. I mean, they're going to find me dead in my car. They're going to say, John already died in his car, but who do we notify? I don't have any relatives in Reno. Don't have any ID that tells anybody, my family member. How are they going to know who to tell? So I talked to my sponsor about it. He said, so you're worried if you die, no one will know? I said, yeah. No one will know I'm dead. He said, I can solve that for you. I said, you can? He said, yeah. He got out a piece of paper, he wrote his name on it. Case of emergency, called Don, he put his phone number. What's your mom's name? I told her her mom's name. He put her name down there and her phone number. Yeah, put her phone number. He said, now, put this in your wallet. If you die, they'll know who to call. I felt good about that. I carried that around with me for four years after I left there, you know. But it wasn't working. I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for me. I'd done AA, I was good enough how to do AA. And I'm down there at the state hospital where I got my big book. And it was on gratitude. Every November, every meeting you go to is gratitude meeting. So I'm talking, I'm crying through the whole meeting. I was really, really cut up. I was just crying about gratitude. And they called on me to share. And I was grateful for some things I had never thought about before. I was grateful I didn't grow up in an alcoholic environment. You know, I'd heard some of the horror stories y'all had to go through when you were kids. I didn't have to go through any of that. I was grateful I didn't grow up in an alcoholic environment. I was grateful that when I got divorced, we had a little custody battle for the kids. I was so grateful the judge had given custody to my ex-wife. I mean, what would happen if I'd have got custody? I can't take care of me. How am I going to take care of them? You know? I was grateful for stuff like that. And after the meeting, a guy came up, Conklin came up, had a lot of money, old Reno money. And I saw him come over to see me, and I thought, it is about time, you know? And he came up, put his arm around me, he said, God, John, he said, I love you. I said, I love you too, Conklin. He said, I just really hope you get in AA. I said, Conklin, what do you mean I'm getting in? I'm in AA. He said, I know you're a member, but I hope you really learn to work the steps. I said, I'm working the steps. He said, well, I hope you learn to take step 3 because you ain't going to make it. You really got to take step 3. And I said, Conklin, I've taken step 3. I took step 3 on my knees with my sponsor. He said, John, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm not looking for a fight. I love you. But let me tell you how I know you haven't taken that step. The 3rd step says that we made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. That means from that minute on, God is going to take care of you. And the reason I know you haven't taken that step is because God takes better care of his kids than the way you're living. How can you argue with that? You can't argue with that. If you were God, would you let your kids live that way? And I started crying. I said, Conklin, how do I do that? And he says, oh, you can't. Well, thanks for sharing. You know? And he says, John, until you accept the fact you're in your car, you're not the hot shot that you like to pretend you are. You're living in your car. And there's nothing you can do about that. You're right where you're supposed to be. Until you accept your situation is just the way it's supposed to be, you can't surrender it. Because until you accept it, you try to change it, don't you? You try to manipulate, you try to maneuver it so that it works. But if you've accepted whatever the situation is, then you can surrender. You can't surrender something you haven't accepted. So until you accept the fact you're in your car, and you're going to stay there till God gets you out of the car. Because lack of power is your dilemma. And you're right where you're supposed to be. And he said, then you got to quit praying for stuff. I said, what do you mean? He said, you praying for food, something to eat? I said, absolutely, every day. He said, you don't need to pray for food. You don't think God knows you need to eat? If he doesn't, you better get a new God. Are you praying for a job? I said, yeah. You don't need to pray for it. God knows you need a job. I said, then what the hell do I pray for? And he said, well, if you knew what God wanted you to do, without a doubt, God wants me to go do that. And you had the power to go do that. Don't you think you'd be okay? And I said, yeah. He said, you pray only for a knowledge of God's will for you and the power to carry it out. And he said, I want to promise, and made me a promise that night. The only promise I've ever gotten in AA. They didn't promise me I could stay sober. But Conklin promised me, he said, John, if you'll just do those two things, I want to promise you that God will start to work so fast in your life you can't keep up with it. It'll be impossible. And I left there and I was staying at the MGM Grand on the parking lot of the MGM Grand. I would park in there and then I'd walk around the casino till 4 o'clock in the morning because it was snowing outside. It was cold. And I'd walk around till 4 o'clock in the morning and then I'd go out and go to sleep. I slept in the front seat of my car. Somebody from AA had loaned me a sleeping bag I slept in. And I went out there to go to sleep and I'm sleeping in the front seat and I'm scared. And my prayer that night, it was just echoing in my ears that I've got to accept the fact I'm in the car. And I knew that was true, that I couldn't get out of the car because I had looked for jobs, I'd done everything I knew I'd do, and I'm living in my car and I don't see any change. And I don't know what to do. And my prayer that night wasn't any great shakes. I remember just praying, I just begged him, God, I don't know what to do. You have to tell me what to do, and I'll do anything you want me to do. But I don't know what to do. There was no more pretense. There was just a little kid crying to his father for help. Because I didn't know what to do. But I promised him, if you'll just let me know, I'll go do it. And there weren't any bolts of lightning. I just went to sleep. And I got up the next morning, walked down to the Shell station and shaved. And put on my suit, my coat and shirt and tie, and went over to check on some applications I put in at 7-Eleven on the south side of town. Went to a meeting at St. Mary's Hospital that night. After the meeting, I'm downtown Reno, so I'm walking around the Hilton. Saturdays, I walk around the Hilton because I'm downtown. That's where the meeting was. And I'm looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. I'm not even looking for a job. I'm looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters, trying to stay warm. And it's about 3:30 in the morning. I'm just getting ready to go get in the front seat of my car and go to sleep. And I got a job at 3:30 Sunday morning. Best job I could have got. Paid me $4 an hour and 1 meal a day. Best job I could have had. I don't care if I got a job, paid me $10,000 a month. You got to work a couple weeks, get a paycheck. But I got $4 an hour and 1 free meal a day. And I got to eat. And I started work the next night at midnight. I worked graveyard shift at the Sahara Hilton. And I got off work Monday morning at 8 o'clock and ran down to central office, tell Don I had this job and I worked the night before. And we're down there smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, crying a little bit about this little job I had. And the phone rang, intergroup. Don picked up the phone, long pause. He said, yeah, I know him. Another long pause. And he said, well, he's sitting right here. Wait a minute. Handed me the phone. And there's a guy named Humphreys, Doc Humphreys. He lives next door to my parents in Utah. I said, what are you doing, Doc? And he said, well, I was talking to your mom and dad over the weekend. They're worried sick about you. They hadn't heard from you for months. See, because I couldn't call him. And I said, well, where is he? They said, well, last we heard he's in Reno. And I told him, well, hell, I'm going to be in Reno tomorrow. I'll call the cops, see if they got him. They said, no, we already called the cops. They don't have him. They don't know who he is. But call AA. He's supposed to be an A. Maybe AA knows where he is. So I got in town this morning. I called AA. Hell, there you are. I said, yeah, I'm sober. And he said, are you working? I said, absolutely. Got a job at the Hilton. So we're not going to tell him how bad it really is out there. He said, great. He said, where are you living? I said, well, I'm moving. He said, moving? He said, have you signed the lease? I said, no, but I'm getting ready to. He said, well, don't. Although he's a doctor, he no longer practiced medicine. He was a contractor. He built homes, subdivision. He said, I'm building a subdivision instead. Instead, it's 8 miles north of Reno. He said, I'm building a subdivision. I built a lot of homes, sold a lot, got a lot more to sell, but I'm losing supplies. Somebody's stealing from me at night and on weekends. They're stealing lumber and they're stealing dishwashers and stuff I put in this new construction because nobody out there to watch them. I got a house. I think I know who it is, but I can't prove it. I got a house next to his I haven't sold yet. If I turn the utilities on in that house, will you come out there and live in that house and keep an eye on things on nights and weekends when I'm not around? I said, I'll come out and look at it, you know. In 48 hours. See, in 48 hours, God had done for me what I can't do for myself. He started to take care of me, you know. And by the way, food and shelter is it. If you got it, you got it all, you know. That promise of conquer made me come true. You can't keep up with it. See, when I have these steps in order, when I'm living the steps, and I have the order in line, that God is God, and I am His son, and He's to take care of me. And what my job is to help His kids. When I have that in order, it's incredibly easy. There's no fight between me and the universe. There's no fight between me and God, and there's no fight between me and you. God takes care of us when I have those things. But when I think I'm in charge, and I'm trying to run the show, and I'm managing it, it falls to hell in a handbasket real quick, and it's happened to me in sobriety. You know, because of the ego. Now, I want to see how much time I got, because I don't want to go over time here. I'm about done. Let me conclude with this. I'm going to tell you a real quick story, and I'll end with it. The Carpenter's book. In the Carpenter's book, it makes a statement that it's life eternal to know God. And life eternal is joy and bliss and happiness. And it's life eternal to know God. We're going to have to get to know God. The story's told about 3 guys that die. One guy's a Christian, one guy's a Jew, one guy's an alcoholic. They die at the same time, they go to heaven. They're in heaven, and St. Peter meets them at the gate. He said, okay. He said, know where they're going to go to heaven or hell. You got to go in here. And you're going to be interviewed. This guy will interview you. So the first guy goes through the door. There's an old man sitting behind a desk. There's a Jewish man, and the first guy through, and he comes up, sits down, looks up, and the old man says, okay. He says, welcome, we've been expecting you. He said, we've just got one question. Who is God? And the Jewish man says, oh, God. You know, God has created the universe. He created the universe. Created the earth in 7 days, in 6 days, rest on the 7th day. Moses was his great apostle, great prophet, led the children out of Egypt. Told us a great story, had all through the Old Testament. And he said, you know a lot about God. He said, oh, absolutely. I've studied the Torah my whole life. He said, well, great. He says, I'm glad you're here. You go through this door right here. Next guy comes through is a Christian. Sits down, the old man says, we just got one question. We weren't expecting you. We're excited to have you with us. He said, the question is, who is God? And the Christian says, oh, God. God, He created the world in 6 days, rest on the 7th. You know, then Jesus was, the Word made flesh on earth, and performed all these miracles, turned water to wine was His first miracle, raised the dead, healed the sick, you know, was crucified on the cross, rose on the 3rd day, and went on and on and on for an hour talking about God. The old man said, man, you know a lot about God. He said, yes, I've studied the Bible my whole life. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. We'll go through this door right here. The alcoholic comes in and walks over, and the old man looks up. The alcoholic looks at him and falls to his knees and says, my Lord, my God. See, there's a difference between knowing God and knowing about God. I have found that religion does an awful good job at teaching you about God. But you have taught me who God is. With the simple statement that if you want to get to know God, get to know His kids. And it's getting to know God that y'all have given me is the best gift I've received. Because God knows us. We expect miracles in our life, and He's willing to give them to us. He knows our name. He knows who you are. I used to think that being willing to go to any lengths was a one-way street. I had to be willing to go to any lengths to get sober. But I know today God is willing to go to any lengths to see you get this deal. You know? And I am so grateful that He let me come and spend this weekend with you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Doesn't he deserve one of those standing ovulations? Before we conclude tonight's meeting, Dan's got a couple announcements to make, so if I could get Dan to come up here and make a couple short, brief announcements.